Good morning and welcome back to the Teacher's Wake-Up Call, le réveil pédagogique avec Madame la Prof. Right, so I haven't been posting a lot. I think I'm going back to my one post a week, one video a week. Je le fais pas par exprès. I am very much a what's the vibe like today mood. And like I've mentioned in the past in other videos, if I don't have a lot to say, I'm not going to make a video and just fill it with blather. I mean, it sometimes does appear like it, but I like to have something specific that I want to talk about. So I want to talk about today getting involved in stuff as a teacher. I remember at the beginning of my career, which was quite some time ago, I don't want to say, I didn't imagine myself getting involved in so many projects. Like throughout my career so far, it ain't done. I've done a lot of activities, not just in the context of French second language, at projects, not just activities, projects. But I've done a lot of big projects, either that were school-wide or student-centered for like student life and leadership. But when I started my career, I didn't envision that because it wasn't something that was talked about. You know, they didn't talk about that at least in my university. I don't want to speak about places like McGill or other Canadian universities about involvement in schools. They didn't talk about that. Our teachers didn't talk about teaching that, like the kind of teaching that would either be project-based or student-centered. It was all about the content, the pedagogy, and so I just got to thinking about how new teachers perceive teacher involvement and their engagement in student life, school culture, and how big of a project they would like to create, and if they think about that at all. Because if there's one thing that young teachers have to understand, is that it takes up a lot of time. Even a smaller project, class project, can take up a lot of time. And I'm not just talking about scheduling time, like, oh my God, it's going to take me a month to do this in class. I'm going to be monopolizing a month's worth of teaching time to focus on this project. I'm talking about mental time. I'm talking about the time you spend thinking about the project and the details, so you can even talk about prep time. But prep time, I see it differently than mental time, because mental time, you're thinking about the project, you are thinking about ways to modify it, how to make it more meaningful to students. Prep time is the time that you spend actually working on it, creating outlines, creating content for the students for them to use. Because it's one thing to use a project that's already prepped in a workbook, which is fine and dandy. I've done those before. But sometimes they're not meaningful to students. So you kind of have to create something that is meaningful to them, or else they're not going to get involved. They're not going to go on. They're not going to get on board. They want to see what's meaningful to them. In a weird way, what is their buy-in, okay? So there's the mental time, and then there's the prep time, and like the execution time. And I think more and more teachers at least the teachers that I frequent, are creating projects who have audiences that are not necessarily the class in which they are presenting. So there's always a component where they have to go outside of the context of the classroom. And that takes up time. That takes up a lot of time. So you end up having to sacrifice certain things. And I don't want to spend like 20 minutes talking about, the hardships that no. I was lucky, okay? My family unit was solid and understanding and supportive. So a lot of the projects that I did for either my French class or for school, I had their support and I had that flexibility and I was blessed with that. But I still had to sacrifice a lot of things. I ended up sacrificing a lot of my mental well-being, stressing over certain things about my projects. I sacrificed a lot of time that I could have spent doing other things for myself, for my family. And I don't know to what extent it's being talked about amongst young teachers, amongst new teachers, about how it's important to get involved, but do we talk about the impact of getting involved? The positive impact, and I don't want to say the negative impact because I don't want to make it seem like don't get involved in school, don't devote time to things that are not directly related to your teaching. I'm saying you have to understand everything. You have to understand everything. That sure, you're creating a better connection with your students. You're creating more profound connections with your students. But at the same time, it monopolizes your mind. You think about those students all the time. It's you have to draw a line somewhere. And one of the biggest concerns for me are the young teachers who get involved in everything because they fear if they don't get involved, it will not be seen in a good light. They would not be seen as like, oh, good teachers. And that saddens me because it's important to get outside of your comfort zone every now and again, but not at the risk of ruining your mental health and your mental well-being. So my advice to new teachers is that be picky and choosy about what you get involved in. You don't have to get involved in everything, every committee, every project, every special event. Be picky and choosy. Because if you wear yourself out, you won't be there in the long term. It will have a negative effect on your health, on your well-being, on your relationships outside of school. And there has to be that balance. How do you find that balance? There's no one way of finding that balance. There's no one way that works for everyone, right? I got involved, I was teaching French, I got involved in student life, I did a fashion show, I was involved in concerts. It worked for me. Was it the best thing? Maybe not. Maybe not. But I ended up finding that balance. And it can take 5 years, 10 years, 20 years till you find that balance. And like I've mentioned before, don't think because your plate is overflowing with things, with like stuff dripping on the side and you can't seem to contain everything. Don't think that is a good thing, right? Like people have to stop thinking that because your plate is so full, you're a successful teacher. No. So you have to create a kind of involvement that is manageable and meaningful to you. And I think I found it now. I'm not saying I found the right thing, but I think I found it now, and I'm happy with where I am and how I get involved in my school. I'm doing the school-based Comic-Con. And why am I doing it here? Because the team's doing it. It's already here. It's already here because my colleague brought it here. And I am so grateful for that. So grateful. Because then I don't have to, I'm not sharing the mental burden, the mental load of all of the prep. Like yesterday I said, I found out that, we won't be able to set up the space the night before because I waited too long to make sure that the rentals were going to be like postponed. So now I have to come up with a solution. But then I paused and I said, no, we have to come up with a solution. I'm not alone in this anymore. I've got 3 other teachers doing this with me. So that's a great thing. That's a great thing. I'm doing that. I am a student life ally. I am a student life ally, so if they're there running an event, I will be there to help, to chaperone, to supervise. I am happy to help in that capacity. And of course, I've got other projects, outside of school, but I'm happy with that. So yeah, it's important to get involved. Getting involved in your school in various capacities, creating projects within and within your class and outside of your class is important. It's great. It creates a different dynamic to your teaching, but you have to know how not to burn yourself doing that, because in the end, you want to be there long term for your students. And if you burn out, nobody wins. On that awesome note, folks, have yourselves an awesome day.